All right, let's talk about honey. We all have a jar of it somewhere in our kitchen, right? But what actually is it? Is it this incredible superfood that ancient civilizations swore by? Or is it basically just another form of sugar that we should be trying to avoid? It's a sweet but pretty sticky question, so let's see what the science actually says. So yeah, this is the big question we're diving into. I mean, on the one hand, it's made by bees, it's natural, it comes from flowers. But on the other hand, it's undeniably packed with sugar. So what's the real story here? Where does the truth actually lie? And this really gets to the heart of the confusion, doesn't it? On one side, you have major health organizations literally telling us to treat honey just like any other added sugar and to cut back. But then on the other side, you have thousands of years of human history where honey was used as a powerful natural medicine. These two ideas seem to be in a total standoff. So who's right? To get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at the actual evidence. So let's begin with the most compelling argument that honey is way, way more than just a simple sweetener. And that brings us to the superstar of the honey world, Manuka. This stuff is, well, it's different. It comes all the way from New Zealand, from bees that visit this one specific plant, and it's famous for having these incredible medicinal properties. It is absolutely the poster child for honey as medicine. So what's its secret weapon? Well, it comes down to this one compound, methyl glyoxal, or MGO for short. Now, other honeys have a little bit of it, but Manuka has it in crazy high amounts. We're talking up to 20 times more. That is where it gets its serious antibacterial kick. And that's exactly why you see that UMF number on the label. It stands for Unique Manuka Factor, and it's basically a power rating. It tells you how much MGO and other good stuff, like antioxidants called phenols, are packed in there. The bottom line is really simple. Higher number, stronger honey. A UMF 20 plus is way more potent than a UMF 10 plus. Okay, but how does it actually work? This is the really cool part. It's not just one thing. It's like a full-on multi-pronged assault on bacteria. It physically stops them from multiplying. It messes with their shape, and, get this, it prevents them from creating those gross, slimy protective shields we call biofilms. What's absolutely wild is that it can even team up with antibiotics to help take down drug-resistant superbugs like MRSA. That's a huge deal. All right, so for putting on a wound, the evidence for honey is pretty solid. But what about eating it? Does it do anything good inside our bodies, or does it just turn into sugar in our bloodstream? Well, this is where the story gets really, really interesting. To figure that out, we've got to look at a huge review of the research, what's known as a meta-analysis. Scientists dug through hundreds and hundreds of studies and zeroed in on 18 really solid controlled trials. We're talking about data from over 1,000 people here. They wanted to see, once and for all, what honey really does to our metabolic health. And the researchers themselves said it best. You know, everyone kind of assumes honey is healthy, but the actual hard evidence from human studies was, well, it was all over the place. Nobody had really pulled it all together to see what it all meant. So that's exactly what this study set out to do. And what they found was kind of shocking. Even though honey is about 80% sugar, eating it didn't just not harm people's health markers, it actually seemed to improve them. So let's break down the actual numbers. First up, and this one is a real head scratcher. Honey was linked to a drop in fasting glucose. Yep, you heard that right. Consuming this sugar was linked to lower blood sugar levels in the morning. That is the complete opposite of what you'd expect. Then there's cholesterol. The analysis found that honey led to a significant reduction in total cholesterol. Another big check in the pro-honey column. And it gets even better. Not only did total cholesterol go down, but HDL, that's the good cholesterol that you want more of, it actually went up. And the researchers were really confident about this finding, which means it's a pretty solid result. So wait a minute, how is this possible? How can something that's basically just sugar, fructose and glucose, do all these good things for our metabolism? It just doesn't seem to add up. Or does it? Turns out, the secret is all in the details. And here's the big reveal from the study. The secret isn't just that you eat honey, it's which honey you eat. They are not all the same, not even close. And the number one difference comes down to processing. On one side, you've got raw honey, which is the real deal, unheated, unfiltered, and still full of all the good stuff like delicate enzymes and probiotics. Then you have processed honey, you know, the stuff in the little bear-shaped bottle, which is usually heated and filtered. And that heat can basically zap away a lot of those benefits. And look at the data. It's crystal clear. When the scientists split the results, you can see that pretty much all of that amazing benefit to fasting glucose came from the studies that used raw honey. The processed stuff? Yeah, it barely made a difference at all. But it wasn't just about raw versus processed. Where the bees got the nectar from mattered too. A lot, actually. Honeys from a single type of flower, they're called monofloral, packed a bigger punch than blended honeys. And the two that really stood out as heroes in the study were clover honey and robinia honey, which you might know as acacia honey. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway for us? Well, it's pretty simple. Honey is not just honey. The kind you pick off the shelf makes all the difference in the world. Now, this is super important. This does not mean you should start pouring honey on everything. The researchers are really clear on this. The key is replacement. So if you're using regular sugar or maple syrup in your tea or on your oatmeal, swapping it out for a small amount of the right kind of raw honey is where you might see the benefits. And how much are we talking about? Well, the average amount used across these successful studies was about 40 grams a day. That's roughly 2 tablespoons. And remember, that's to replace other sugars, not to just add on top of them. So let's circle all the way back to where we started. That whole debate about honey being a health food or just another sugar. Turns out the answer is a lot more interesting than a simple yes or no. And that really leaves us with a big question to think about. If a specific food, in its raw, natural form, can show these kinds of real, measurable, positive effects on our bodies, does it still make sense to just call it a free sugar and lump it in with things like high fructose corn syrup? Maybe, just maybe, that ancient wisdom was onto something all along.